Alright, in this segment we're going to take and cover the basics of squad and weapon team counters and what the different numbers on them represent and stand for. Now, if we take a look at squad counters, we're going to start at the top left and just work our way around. At the top left, you're going to see what's called your identification badge, and that's simply going to let you know what unit or nationality the unit's part of. You can see for like German units, you're going to see the German cross, or like our 82nd Airborne guys have, the 82nd Airborne symbol on them. Now, to the bottom left of the counter, you see a number, and this represents their firepower. It's called their inherent firepower. This is going to be used for your direct fire and direct fire checks, things like that. We'll take and address that when we get to that segment of the video. Also used with that, the number directly to the right is their range. You're simply going to count that many hexes from the counter, and that's how far they can target them with their inherent firepower. To the right of that is their movement factor. This is how many movement points they get each turn to take and move, and not every hex is going to take and cost one movement point to take and move into. Some will, some like trees could cost 2 or 3 movement points depending on what game you're going to play and what type of unit is making the move. Now, up to the top right of that, of the counter, is their morale value. This is going to be used in damage checks or rally checks. If a unit's shaken when they're attempting to rally back to their full status, you're going to use this number to take and conduct that check. Now, on the back of the counter itself, you'll notice it has the large word shaken written across it, and that their firepower and range are blotted out and there are stars there in place. That's simply to signify that the unit cannot fire when it's shaken, and it has its movement value reduced at that point. Easy to understand. Now, on the front of the counter, there is a picture of 2 men on them. That signifies that it is a full counter, or it's a full squad. If it only has 1 man on it, it's considered a half squad, and it'll generally have reduced stats. But the stats that are on the half squad are just the same as they are on a full squad. The only difference being that one has 2 men on it and one has 1. Now, weapon teams are also considered multi-man counters in Lock and Load Tactical, but they're multiple men crewing a crew-served weapon, something like an AA gun or an anti-tank gun, something along those lines. On the basic weapon teams, the stats that are on them are going to be the same as they are for a squad. You're going to have the badge, you're going to have in the bottom left their firepower, their range in the bottom middle, their movement factor in the bottom right, and their morale in the upper right. On the back, it'll show their shaken stats as usual. It'll say shaken on them, but it'll also have SR on there, which stands for self-rally. This indicates that that unit is able to take and rally without having a leader or a hero in the hex to help them make that rally check. Now, a different type of weapon team is one that fires with an ordnance table. You'll see on the front of that counter that its inherent firepower and range also have stars, and that's to signify that you're going to use the ordnance fire table on the back of the counter to take and conduct its fire action. We're not going to go all into ordnance and how it works in this video. That'll be covered in a separate one. But very briefly, the top row of numbers represents its range. The middle row of numbers represents the hit roll that you need to make. And the bottom row of numbers represent its penetration value. You could see other factors here as well, heat weapons or things of that nature. Now, on the front of the counter, just to the left of your morale number is what's called its HE equivalency. That number is going to be used when conducting ordnance fire against certain types of units like leg units. Now, there are other types of weapon teams like AA guns or anti-tank guided missiles that have their own special rules associated with them. We're going to take and touch on those in their own specific videos, but they do have things like numbers that you'll use to take and determine if they're running out of ammo for the guided missiles, or a double set of numbers on the ordnance table, like for AA guns, when you're firing them at ground targets or air targets. We'll take and cover those when we cover aircraft.